We have to find a way to talk and have dialogue and be tolerant between other views.
You have to have open dialogue, and that's where free speech is so important.
Consent's a very important thing, and today in the Me Too movement, it's been very important because I think it's really opened up a lot of eyes.
Cannabis is a healing herb. We as the people, we need to stand up and make a move.
If you committed sexual assault, it doesn't matter when it was, you should be held accountable for that. However, we have to make sure that we actually make sure they committed sexual assault, and we have to make sure that all allegations are verified.
They'll put in these programs thinking that it'll help everyone, but what they forget is that the pathway to hell is paved with good intention.
And I think that's what this whole movement is all about anyways, is trying to be open to ideas.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Liberty Talks podcast. Normally I have John Douglas next to me. We have a regular weekly show that we normally film on Thursdays and usually gets out sometime in the beginning of the next week. But today I have Michael Anderson on. He is the other co-founder of Liberty Talks podcast. So I'm sure if y'all listen to Liberty Talks, you've heard him plenty of times. He actually did my first podcast on Liberty Talks. Liberty Talk. There's too many podcasts in there. I'm just going to call it Liberty Talks from now on.
Liberty Talks is fine.
I did my first podcast with him on Liberty Talks. And today we're just kind of winging it today, to be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
So yeah, thanks for having me on, Matt, as usual. We, like you said, I had you on when we first did the podcast together, and now you do a weekly show with John. I'm filling in for him today. And today, like you said, we're going to wing it. We are going to be talking about our feelings on Donald Trump, how we went into the 2016 election, how we felt, how we feel about Trump as of today, his policies, and how they're actually more liberal leaning and more left leaning than you actually may think. Not only that, but how certain leftists view him today and how they used to view him not so long ago.
The resistance was not so resisty like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah, like, to be honest with you, unpopular opinion, but by the end of this podcast, you should understand why Democrats should be going crazy over Donald Trump. And Donald Trump is the reason why Democrats are going literally off the edge, crazy to the left. So,
yeah.
So Matt, why don't you start us off telling us a little bit, because I know you have your own blog, your own website where you actually wrote about this.
Yeah. That's the funny thing. Okay, so to give like a very, very brief rundown of where I am, I was never Trump in 2016, and I'll probably be voting for him in 2020. That's a brief rundown. So let's go back to 2016. Let's read some of the things that I wrote and that others wrote at my site. Republicans can say bye to millennials if we get President Trump. I don't think that's as true as it was back then, because of what's happened. Donald Trump doesn't care about the Supreme Court. In that article, I argued that we weren't going to get conservative justices, mainly because I thought Mitch McConnell wouldn't have a spine, and he would end up just folding over after like they couldn't after they couldn't get 60 votes the first time around. The first time first time Trump put up a conservative. I thought Mitch McConnell would fold, and then Trump would put up a liberal, and then from there on we'd get liberal justices, because he would start working with the Democrats, because Trump seems to be a liberal. And this was another argument in one of my pieces where I argued that the reason why I was opposing Trump is because he was a leftist. So now I would kind of back off on that some and say I don't think he's a leftist, but he's more of just a liberal. And I think that's still true, but the left just went absolutely crazy.
Well, and to your point, you were saying to the Supreme Court, yeah, we did get Gorsuch, which was great. Mm-hmm. And what we got Kavanaugh, I think that was a battle that I didn't even want to fight myself. I guess you could say I was pro Kavanaugh by the end of it, but it was not someone that I wanted to actually go on the Supreme Court. I was never pro Kavanaugh until started where people were accusing him of doing this, but they were trying to, like, more or less, take him out in the court of opinion rather than an actual court of law. So I mean, Kavanaugh is not really as conservative as Gorsuch is, but we did get Gorsuch with the Supreme Court. So, I mean, you kind of did call that a little bit. He definitely is kind of hypocritical on the Supreme Court.
Yeah. It's really interesting to see how this is played out. And we actually have a clip here to give an example of somebody who's just crazy far left and opposes Trump on everything that you could possibly oppose Trump on. That was calling Trump a social liberal back in 2011. So we'll go ahead and play this clip real quick.
If the economics of this country keep going the way they're going, we're not going to have a country.
You're kind of a social liberal, Donald. You know, you're a social liberal. Could you actually get the base to vote for you in the primary?
Well, every poll is.
Yeah, so right there, that's Joy Behar. Which one of Behar? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, I think so. Joy Behar.
Something like that. But she's calling Trump a social liberal. And she's saying, could you even get those Republicans to vote for you? Those radical, crazy Republicans?
Yeah, and you're right. And just to give you some context of that interview, it's something I found not that long ago. And Trump's talking on The View in 2011 about possibly running in 2012. Right. And essentially he's saying exactly what he said in 2016. Hey, look, we're losing, to everyone, China, everything like that. And 2011, Joy Behar said, now, do you think you can get the base to vote for you because you're a social liberal? There was another person on there that brought up, oh, what about your marriage? Right. And Trump is saying, look, I'm popular. That's what he was saying. He's like, I'm popular. I'm the most popular person in the Republican primary. I'm even popular on the scale of a president of Obama. And so he was not worried about that, and it's funny because Joy now, she despises him, but she would call him a social liberal in 2011. But now he's an ultra conservative, almost alt-right, right? He's not even a conservative. He's an alt-right. He's far right. Right?
Yeah. But the funny thing is, that's the argument that I was making in 2016 for why I wouldn't vote for him. Not just because he was a social liberal, but because he was left leaning in general. And then I saw it as pointless. I saw the choice between him and Hillary is essentially the same. I thought they were going to do essentially the same things. Now I will say one area where I was wrong in is he has cut back, and this is totally him. This doesn't have anything to do with the Democrats at all. He's cut back some of the power that the executive branch had when it comes to regulations and stuff not economic, environmental regulations and stuff like that. He has done a pretty good job at cutting back the amount of government employees we have. Now, of course, not nearly enough because our government is so massive that it's going to take a true libertarian to actually come in and sort the place out. But
absolutely, what he really needs to do is in the Fed. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Just to add to your point, I'm right there with you. I was a never Trump conservative in 2016. I'm a libertarian, but and I voted libertarian, but I was someone who saw him as a left-leaning individual, a Democrat, as someone who could not be trusted. I saw him as somebody he supported liberal candidates. He supported Jesse Jackson. He supported Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. And that's what I thought I was going to get. And we kind of did. We kind of got, in my viewpoint, I think Donald Trump is kind of like a Kennedy Clinton-esque Democrat, John Kennedy, and a Bill Clinton type of Democrat. So the Democratic Party should be going crazy over this guy. I honestly, right now we're looking at 2020, I kind of miss Obama as a candidate, candidate Obama. I'm like, bro, we need some candidate Obamas. He actually had a very libertarian philosophy besides the socialism, besides the
socialism.
Besides, it's kind of like Tulsi Gabbard, right? He had a very libertarian type of philosophy about civil liberties, anti-war, stuff like that, besides the socialism. But now it's all they're talking about. That's all they're just socialism, government interventionism. I kind of miss Barack Obama. And it's like Trump could have been a Democrat, but he ended up becoming a Republican because of how far the Democrats have gone, because they've really gone off the edges. And that could be contributed to Obama.
Yeah, and I think that's pushed Trump to the right somewhat. Them going crazy. I don't think we would have seen him do the same kinds of things that he's done that have been good, that have been in line with conservatism, which I like, if the Democrats had not lost their minds, which is one of the reasons why I'm voting for him in 2020, because I think they have gone so far. So I still have a little bit of a worry that if Democrats get in office, get control of the Senate, then he might start working with them. But that worry gets less and less every day that they call him a Nazi or Hitler or alt-right or whatever. Every day that they keep pushing that same racist, sexist, homophobic, xenophobic, Islamophobe narrative against Trump, I go, he's probably less and less likely to work with them. So I'll probably vote for him in 2020.
And I'm almost right there with you. I'm not going to go out there on a limb just yet and say I'm going to vote for Donald Trump, but I can tell you that I do support the president as an American. And there was at one point when I did support Barack Obama as the president, and I think I support Donald Trump the most. In my opinion, he's probably one of the best presidents of my lifetime. And that's not saying much. In my lifetime, we got Bill Clinton, Bush, and Obama besides Trump. So not saying much on my end. So I am looking very hard at voting for Donald Trump. Libertarian or Democrats, they're going to have to impress me if they want my vote this year. So, but to give Donald Trump some credit, he has done some more libertarian or conservative-minded things, like ending the individual mandate, getting the best tax cut in 10 years, cutting regulation, as you noted, and also libertarian type of minded things would be criminal justice reform and talking about ending being non-interventionist, not intervening as much as we should. So at the same time, though, this is kind of a classic liberal type of position. It's almost like an old school liberal type of position. So yeah, we have that clip from The Blaze. Why don't you play that from Chad Pratherson?
This is what I've come out with here recently, and it's ticking people off, but it's a fact. Donald Trump's not a conservative Republican. He's not a far-right guy. He's not even a right-leaning guy. He is just left of center. Okay, all you got to do is look at a lot of the decisions he's got, but they've made him such a far-right icon, even though he doesn't do that. His decisions and the things he's done have been very moderate, very pro-America, things that have always been pushed by Democratic leaders, and he's doing these things. In order to make him look like a far-right crazy person, they've got to go as far left as they can possibly do, to the point of jumping off the edge, because they have to make him look like an extremist. Mm-hmm. He's not. Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, is a left-of-center politician.
Yeah, so he's exactly right. He is a left-of-center politician, and and like I said earlier, I think they have actually pushed him a little bit further right than he normally would be. So a good example that I would bring of this, I don't know what you had in mind here, but is the recent bills that were passed or at least brought to the floor, in some places passed in Rhode Island and New York and Illinois, these 9-month abortion access bills.
Exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was going to say.
So Trump gives a speech at the state, I guess that was the State of the Union. I can't remember exactly. I think it was the State of the Union. He gives his State of the Union speech, and in it, he talks about how despicable it is that we're now saying that it's okay to murder babies at 9 months in the womb. And that's like, he probably would have never talked about abortion. Back before he started running for president, I think he mostly was pro-choice. He even mentioned, he was doing an interview, I can't remember where, and he mentioned, it might have been with CNN, but he mentioned that whenever they asked him about the abortion issue, he said, well, I'm from New York, so, we tend to be pro-choice there. So it's like he had never thought about it before. He just didn't care. He's just like, I'm from New York, I'm kind of a liberal, so yeah, pro-choice, I'll go with that one. Like, he never really thought about it. And even in 2016, like, he didn't really start championing the anti-abortion thing until he really started getting pressed on it, and it became like and I see this, I think he sees politics as just like a game for him, right? It's like I guess more so a business. Like, so he made the savvy business decision. Okay, this is my base now. This is officially who's supporting me. So I'm going to go with the anti-abortion position.
Well, so let me ask you this now. And this is, and let me say something, because I'm trying to understand it too, because I'm not so sure like, Trump's a human being. I'm going to give him that. I try to think of people as, human beings who have rights and they have feelings just like me, right? Like, we got to keep that in mind when we're talking about politicians that you might despise. Even John McCain. A lot of libertarians give John McCain shit. I mean, yeah, he did a lot of bad things, but you got to kind of keep in mind he's a human being. So at the same time, so two ways to different look at it, right? Like, you said he was pro-choice. Like, I observed that. Now, in the presidential debates, he did something that kind of threw me off. But now looking at it now in 2019, it was almost, I don't know if it was 4D chess, or I don't know if it was an actual genuine move from left to right. But in the debates, he was championing pro-life. In fact, he was saying that Hillary and the other Democrats were for partial birth abortion. I don't know if I said that right. Partial birth abortion, essentially infanticide. That the Democrats were for hardcore things like that, extreme positions. And Hillary was like, no, we're not. And everyone laughed him off, and tons of articles said no one's trying to do that. What is going on in 2019? I don't know if he predicted it. I don't know if this was something that he genuinely saw coming, or if it was 40 chess or what. But this is a position that he literally went from left to right on. And I don't know if it was he pushed them or if they pushed him. Because it could have been both. They could have pushed him, but by him saying that kind of stuff, he could have pushed them, which is why I think the Democrats of today are so left-leaning. That's why everyone's advocating for socialism and leftism, is because they see Donald Trump over here. He's center left. So to separate from him, to try to show that he's an extreme alt-right person, they have to go all the way to the left, to socialism, just to out-left him.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, it could be that he's being pushed more to the right now as well.
Well, that's something you could see with abortion.
Yeah. If you look at who he surrounded himself with from 2016 on, it was Franklin Graham. It was Jerry Falwell, right? It was Mike Huckabee. It's these southern pastures.
I mean, like, they were kind of like, I mean, I don't know if Mike Lee, Mike Lee is really,
yeah, that's another example. And these are all like conservative Christians, many from the South, that are your stereotypical, like, conservative, anti-abortion Christians. So whenever he was pushed away from the left, obviously he started having more interactions with these guys and started, well, this is the team I'm on now. So
yeah, and you're right.
He actually became more conservative over time. He could actually be a conservative now. But
I think that something you see about Donald Trump is he's very like in the moment, so he kind of like does what he has to do in that moment. But I also feel like he's very much about culture and, playing on the team, right? So like, to be on that team, that's the reason why he has to surround himself and be around these people. And it's almost one thing, the reason why I really like Donald Trump being in the Republican Party, because after Donald Trump won, I had so many people saying, you should join the Republican Party. You should be a conservative, opening up not just to me, but to classic liberals, to Democrats that were disenfranchised by the Democratic Party being so left-leaning. Mm-hmm. So if you watch that entire video on The View in 2011, they actually say, what about your marriages? You've had 3 wives and stuff. And he says, and Donald Trump, he says something that you would expect him to say today. Look, our country's in such disaster that people are not going to care about that. Well, in 2016, they didn't care about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And at least they cared about it less than the left cared about the hypocrisy of Hillary Clinton.
And the fun thing about it is, like, not only does the left make him seem very conservative, but if you compare Donald Trump in comparison to like Bush and Mitt Romney and Bush Sr., he's a lot more conservative than them, because they were all neocons. And who the hell is Mitt Romney? I mean, like, he was for Romney care. And like,
and McCain was the deciding vote to not get rid of Obamacare.
Right.
So it's all the candidates that have been probably in both of our lifetimes. on the Republican side, on the presidential level, have not been all that conservative. So it just makes it even more insane because this exploded with Trump, but it really started back in George W. Bush. They were calling him Hitler. Even I remember, what's his name? Bill Maher. Bill Maher, about a year and a half ago, was talking about how maybe we overreacted with Bush because I would prefer to have Bush back. Maybe we shouldn't have acted like he was Hitler because now it was basically admitting that it was all a show.
And that's insane. Like, that's insane. You want Bush back? Like, what in the world are you thinking? What?
Yeah. It's astonishing. And it's almost them just admitting that it was all a show, but no, now we're serious. But of course, they have to make themselves out to be insane people to be.
And it really, like, from my, like, the reason why I react like that, it's just like, some people may or may not know, like, I came from a more liberal background. My parents were like Bill Clinton supporting Democrats, right? So, like, they despised Bush. I was raised to despise everything about Bush, right? But, like, they became Republicans after Obama, and they support Trump. So it's like, if you said, yeah, we need Bush back, they would look at you like you were crazy. And they'd be like, nah, man, we're for Trump. I mean, they're not like totally crazy MAGA supporters, but they definitely support the president.
Yeah. Yep. It's a strange world we're living in.
It is. But if you look at some of these older clips, you can kind of see it coming. You can kind of see that Trump he's worried about the popular vote. He's worried about being popular. He's not worried about the way the media or any other people represent him. You know, he's like, oh, I don't care about people mischaracterizing me and trying to say that I'm immoral, whatnot. I'm worried about the country. And, he kind of hasn't changed. Like, and I'm not even that big of a fan. Like, I'm not even that big of a fan of Donald Trump, but it's kind of like interesting to see he hasn't really changed, like, in that course since about like 2008, 2011, 2009, and then going forward, he had that same type of message going for president. And if you really observed it, like, I think you could see it coming.
Yeah. And what message are you talking about? This message?
The Democrats have to now decide whether they will continue defrauding the public with ridiculous bullshit.
I just love that clip. I can't take it. That's gonna start getting played in all the podcasts.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Seriously, we gotta play that in a lot of our podcasts. Seriously, like, are the American people, are they going
ridiculous bullshit?
Ridiculous bullshit. Are they tired of this ridiculous bullshit? What are the Democrats doing right now? They're saying, you're getting me on a rant, bro. What are they? They're saying that they want to give us free college. They want to get rid of our college debt. They want to give us free this, free that, UBI. They want to give us everything. Their whole platform right now is a whole new social safety net. And I like what John said on his podcast was that, or on your guys' podcast, was that that it's not a social safety net, it's a social safety web. Like, once you get stuck in, you can't get out. Like, it's true, and that's what they want. So when are the American people going to wake up and see that the Democrats are defrauding them, when their only other choice is someone who is actually a liberal that stands for the American people and has been saying the same thing for a while now, and he's not actually literally Hitler.
Hustle justice.
Hustle justice, bro. Right there. You got it. They're hustling.
Yeah, that's what it is. They're even talking about reparations now.
Yes, you talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that last podcast, and it's funny because people were commenting on that. They just don't understand. Like, it's like they didn't even watch the show. You know,
they just read the title and went with it. Oh, yes. That happens. I had somebody I was going back and forth with on Twitter with somebody of something that I said that obviously didn't read the article.
Yeah, and really, if you break it down, like, if people that hate us or that disagree with us, they're still listening. The idea is that we don't trust the government. Like, we don't trust the government to take care of you. Like, you are an amazing individual that can take care of yourself, that can do so much without the government burdening you and assisting you and holding you down. You shouldn't have to just dwell and depend on a government to help you and to find prosperity. The free market, being free, the principle of freedom is so much more important than the idea of a nanny state helping you from cradle to grave, doing everything for you.
Yeah. And I would say that and this is the problem I see with a lot of conservatives, is they won't make arguments in this way, that in advocating for policies that give the government more power and more control over people's lives, you are doing something immoral. Like you are saying that that we as a collective have a right to your labor, we as a collective have a right to your property, and therefore you have to pay these taxes to go to these things that many times you don't even like. You have to pay taxes to pay for abortions, even though you're anti-abortion. You have to pay taxes to go to welfare, even though you're anti-welfare. So it's actually immoral. And we can push freedom, but the reason freedom is good is because lack of freedom is bad. And so voting for that lack of freedom is bad. And the left's just going to get crazier and crazier on all these things.
Yeah, and I like the way you break that down. Essentially what you're saying right there is taxation is theft, but you're not just screaming it at people.
Yeah.
You broke it down for people, and that was a great way to do it. And you know what? I kind of see, and this is why Donald Trump really appeals to me, because he kind of reminds me of myself almost in a way. And I don't know if it's genuine or if it's just for politics, but when you're talking about like switching from right to left and pushing people from different places, I used to be someone, like I said, a liberal, a libertarian type of views, but someone who identified more as a liberal, who would say the conservatives should make this argument. This is how conservatives should make an argument. Like you said, conservatives don't do that enough. I got sick and tired of saying conservatives should do this, that I started saying, well, I'm a conservative and I'm going to do it. And I think that's what Donald Trump did.
Yeah. Yeah. That's possibly it. Crazy times we live in, man. But I think we've rambled on enough. So,
well, that's definitely a good close. That was a really awesome podcast. Matt, I appreciate you having me on and doing this. For everyone that's still listening to Liberty Talks right now, Matt is our co-producer. I used to be producing the show mostly, but he's been helping out a lot, so he's going to be co-producing the show along with me. So this is the producer half an hour that you've been listening to, I guess. The co-producer half an hour.
Yep.
But we got some great things coming at you, new interviews, a whole new team. We actually just finished up a meeting earlier before the podcast that I think was awesome. And that's why me and Matt are doing the podcast tonight. So if you are still here, share the podcast out, leave us a review, go like our stuff, share our stuff, and be sure to tune in every single week for new content.